Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IELTS Teacher Program webinar from Expert IELTS Success. I'm Daniel,
And I'm Claudia.
and in today's session, we're just going to spend a little bit of time taking you through how we can help support you as IELTS teachers and share a little bit about you with our program. So, what are we going to cover in this webinar? So firstly, we'll talk about where to start in your journey as an online IELTS teacher. So a lot of teachers we speak to kind of ask us, where should I begin? Where do I start? What do I do? So we'll take you through those steps. Then we'll talk about how to assess students effectively. Again, another real difficulty that teachers face with IELTS teaching. So we'll talk to you about that process. Then we'll talk about how you can build your mindset and approach to your online IELTS teaching business. So how do we go from just teaching one or two students on an hourly basis to building an IELTS teaching business? And then finally, we can talk about how we can help you achieve this with our IELTS teacher community. Our program, we have a few different things we'd love to talk to you about and offer you to help you on your journey. So do grab a pen and paper because we're going to give you lots of hopefully very valuable and useful information. I have mine ready. And if you do find anything else that comes up and you have any questions, you can let us know at the end and we'll be happy to answer them for you. Alrighty. So Claudia, as a teacher, where should I start on my journey teaching IELTS?
Yeah, so everyone will be at a different starting point. Some teachers may be watching this and thinking, well, I know the test format, I've prepared a few students, but I'd like to improve my skills. I really want to see my students get the results that they need. Other teachers might not even know what the test looks like. So you really have to ask yourself where you're at. How familiar are you with all elements of the test? Are you equally comfortable with each element? Have you or are you planning to take the test? Are you familiar with the band descriptors? And are you open to learning new skills, techniques, and training to improve? So that's what you need to think about when you first start out.
Yeah, exactly. And these are all, very common problems and questions that teachers have when they start teaching IELTS. And again, it's really important to be open to trying new things and learning new things. And kind of we want to take you through the journey that we went through, but obviously take out all the trial and error, all the failures that we had, and just kind of set you up for success. So there's three things that we can help you to do. We can help you set goals for your progress. So we can support you with the knowledge of the IELTS test, the test format, what to look for as an examiner, training and development, so the right skills that you need, the right techniques you need to help students to be successful. And then obviously finding students, this is a big one, and building a program. So this is something we want to talk to you more about as well. We're really excited to share with you. So what should we teach, Claudia? Because
Mm.
to the IELTS test. So if I want to teach IELTS, what should I teach?
Yeah, so you can actually specialize in one part of the test, but it's important to know all parts of the test. So students will come to you usually for speaking or writing. You cannot really specialize in reading or listening. You should know reading and listening, and you should give them skills and strategies that they can use, like skimming and scanning and all these things. But you can't really specialize in that. And you will notice that students don't really come to you specifically for reading and listening, but they will come to you for either speaking or writing. Some of them will come to you for both, but most of the time, students will come to you for one thing. And so you can position yourself as an expert if you specialize in one of these things. So you should ask yourself, what am I comfortable with? And what are my skills? If you specialize in academic writing, then definitely go for IELTS writing. And if you're just starting out and you're saying to yourself, I really don't know where to start with speaking. It's a great way to get familiar with the test and build yourself up actually as a teacher.
Absolutely, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for us, with the students we work with, Claudia specializes in speaking, I specialize in writing, but it's very important that we learn from each other and know a little bit about each element of the test. The analogy I always use is, if you go to the doctor and you have a broken leg, the doctor is going to focus on your leg and work on that part first, but it's important to look at everything as a whole, and to
Mm.
understand all the different elements of it. So these are things we can help you with. But if you're just starting out and you think, okay, I just want to start out with IELTS, then start with speaking, because that would be a little bit easier to manage initially, and then we can look at other areas. But if you can specialize in one niche and really focus on one niche, you can then attract those students who need that specific help and guidance. That's when you can start to charge more and also be more effective and get better results for your students as well. All right, so the band descriptors, this is key and central to everything that you're going to do as an IELTS teacher. As examiners, this is the only way we are able to assess candidates, and there should be no other way to measure performance except for these descriptors. So we have the speaking and the writing band descriptors. Now, I know Claudia is going to share in a moment. There are lots of different things you might hear, lots of bad information, incorrect information, false information, misleading information. Really, what it comes down to, if you want to teach IELTS, is these are the band descriptors. I need to know them inside out, master them, know how to communicate them to my students and set them up for success using these. But Claudia, what are some of the difficulties and issues students have around the band descriptors?
Yeah. So, not understanding what you are being assessed on as a student is a big deal because you will waste time on things that don't matter. And this kind of goes into mindset, and mindset is really important. It's not just something that we talk about for fun. It's actually the foundation is your students' mindset. And so if they don't have the right information regarding what they're being assessed on, they will start to stress about things that just don't matter, like I've mentioned. For example, I had a student tell me, well, the examiner's body language was kind of off to me, or my body language was off towards the examiner. Will that affect my score? No, but it did affect my students' performance throughout the exam. So it's really important for them to know the examiner will interrupt you, and it's a normal part of the exam. You're not being assessed on whether or not the examiner interrupts you. You're not being assessed on what you wear, how much you smile at them. No, this is very clear. We can make it as clear as possible for the student. And they need that assurance. They really do.
Yeah, as teachers, we have a lot of students come to us and say, I've heard all these different things. I'm very, confused. I'm overwhelmed. I'm anxious. There's so many things coming in. And what we need to do is just simplify the process, block out all that external noise, and just focus on the band descriptors and improving those skills to get to that level. That's really all that it's about, especially with speaking and writing. When it comes to listening and reading, those are just basically assessed in an administrative way. The answer is right or wrong. And that's basically as simple as it is. There's a little bit more to that, but essentially that is how students are going to be assessed. And this is why it's really key to understand these band descriptors and know how to use them correctly to communicate with your students. So, Claudia, if I'm a new student or I'm teaching a new student, how would I prepare them to be successful in the IELTS test? What are some steps we can use to get started?
Yeah. So the first one is to help them understand the test format. And you don't want to brush over this. You want to understand the test format really, really well because each part of the test requires something different from the student. For example, in the speaking part of the test, part 3 is different to part 1. The topic may be the same, but the way the student answers the question is different. It should be different. And so understanding the test format in every part of the test, those little details it's key. And then explaining the band descriptors to your students. As we've just mentioned, if they don't know the band descriptors, they will waste time on things that don't matter. And a
Mhm.
lot of these students are under pressure as well. And then teaching them the necessary skills and strategies. So this is where you have to teach them how to write a better essay, but also how to write an IELTS essay, because it is a little
Mm.
different to just a normal academic essay. How could they structure an answer in IELTS speaking? It's not just speaking. How can they structure their answer to help them and set themselves up for a better conversation or set themselves up to fulfill those band descriptors. So essentially, what we're doing, number 4, is we are simplifying the process as teachers. Because of all the noise, we are there to simplify the process. We are there to actually get rid of all the noise, because there's a lot of noise out there regarding IELTS. And then guiding students step by step. So Daniel and I have said this a few times, but you can take something as creative as an essay and you can make it technical. For example, breaking down the introduction into 3 sentences, you can do that for your students. So what should we write in the first sentence, in the second sentence, and the third sentence? In my body paragraph, how can I break that down for the student? So essentially, you can guide them step by step. Another thing is to help them improve their overall English. So IELTS is a balance. It's a balance between the students' English level, their overall general English, and it's a balance of teaching them, the IELTS strategies and teaching and preparing them for a very specific test and a very specific format.
Right.
You cannot have one without the other. If your student comes to you and says, I have 2 weeks to prepare and I need a 7.5, but their level is not there, you can teach them all the strategies that you can teach them the test format, you can give them as much information as possible. It's not going to help them, and vice versa. Some native speakers can score low on the IELTS test
Yes, very true.
right, if they are not prepared for the test. If you are not prepared for a test and you don't know what the examiner expects of you, it doesn't matter what your English level is. So we need that balance, and you need to be really honest with your student as well. Sometimes they don't give you a choice. Sometimes they come to you and they're like, my test is this time. And that's one of the challenges that we face as teachers, and we try and help other teachers deal with. And then lastly, boosting your students' confidence. Again, this seems so simple and elementary, but it's not. It's everything. If a student comes to you and they're under pressure and they think that they cannot do it, then they won't do it. So as a teacher, how can I dispel those myths that have kept them scoring low? And how can I kind of make it easier for them and help them face this huge mountain
Yes,
called the IELTS test, where the
I love
stakes are
it.
really high?
Yes. And the fact that we're able to simplify this down into 7 steps is actually quite difficult, but we've tried to look at everything holistically and how do we break this down into a simple way so that as a teacher or as a student, I can just follow through these steps and obviously refine, improve, and develop as I go through so that I have that confidence. I know what to expect. I know the process. I know how to be successful. I know how the test's going to run. I know how to manage everything. And that's the key, really, to do it so that everything is clear and simple and organized and as stress-free and as anxiety reducing as possible. So that is the goal here. And this is great. And this is something we can obviously talk to you about more, but it's just a really nice starting point for working with students. So how can I assess my students effectively? So this is a really common question. A lot of people ask, and a lot of teachers ask about this when it comes to IELTS. How can I assess them effectively? So there's some different ways you can do this. Some teachers like to do a placement test before. I know there's one from After Class. I know Cambridge offers one. That's fine for general English and maybe grammar and things like that. That could be very useful. But in terms of the IELTS test, we'll talk specifically about it. A good way to help assess your students in the first session is to give them a mock speaking test. And then you can follow this up with different writing tasks as well. So you can do a mock speaking test in your first session or even in regular sessions where you go through the test, part 1, part 2, part 3. You give them lots of feedback. You give them corrective feedback. You give them ways that they can improve in the future as well. And then towards the end of that session, you can go over 2 writing tasks, a task 1 and a task 2. Now, something very interesting is that most examiners say that students struggle most with writing task 1. and that's worth a third of their score. And if they don't do well on task one, it doesn't really matter how well they write a task two. So this is something you can cover with your student to help them give equal attention and equal care to each part of it, because they both obviously, are important together as a whole as well. And then you can obviously evaluate performance based on IELTS band descriptors. So you can do a mock speaking test, give them feedback based on that speaking test. Then you can look at the writing and give them feedback based on the writing descriptors. Just base it on that. They know exactly what they need to do, how they need to improve, and then we can go from there. When it comes to reading and listening, as we mentioned, the answers are pretty much right or wrong. There's a few slight nuances that we can go into in future sessions, but essentially that'll give you a good idea of their level. One thing to also consider is if they're general or academic, because it might be slightly different in how the scores are calculated. But then when you have the scores, you can evaluate where they went wrong. They can share the questions where they went wrong, and then you can go through the steps or go through the difficult questions. Maybe it's matching headings. Maybe it is true, false, not given, which is very tricky. So you can spend time on those with your student as well. And then you can pinpoint and give corrective feedback so they know exactly where they went wrong and what they need to do next time, and we'll help you with those steps as well. And again, what can we help with? Well, myself and Claudia can talk about how to assess students accurately. When you do examiner training, which I did many years ago, it was very tricky to actually be able to assess accurately. And it took a lot of time and practice, and that's something we can work on together. Providing materials, so we can help you with materials, with curriculum. We have developed those that we use with our students on our programs. So we'll be happy to share those with you so you can get started. And then most importantly, how to give accurate feedback. It's really easy to say, great, amazing, fantastic, wonderful. That doesn't have any value. So how can we give specific feedback? Okay, so you're assessed in these 4 parts of the speaking test. They're all worth 25% each. Pronunciation. So it seems like it's a difficulty to pronounce these words. Let's focus on this pronunciation. Or vocabulary. You used very limited words and you repeated a lot of words. How could we develop that in some easy, simple words we can use instead? So that's another option as well. So we'll help you with these, and we'll go over these in more detail with you on the program in the sessions. But we just want to show you how you can help with this part assessment, which is very important. So we need to build a good mindset as a teacher, and we need to help our students build a strong mindset as well. So Claudia, how could we do this? How could we help build mindset with our students?
Yeah, so firstly, you need to know what challenges most students face. And as Daniel and I have spoken about this before, each student is different, but each student is the same, especially when they come to you specifically for IELTS, because they're facing similar challenges. The first one is time management. So you can have a student write a Band 8 essay, but in 3 hours. That is not going to help them on the day of the exam.
Mhm.
So you have to practice under time conditions. You have to help them manage their time. I mean, even in the reading test, you can help them, manage their time, because the last article, for example, is the hardest, and they need to spend most of their time on that. So it's little things like that that we as teachers need to help our students with. Using complex grammar is another one. How can we as teachers help our students use complex grammar naturally? And, let them know that it's not about these long sentences, and it's not about trying to show off, because it can come off as unnatural. But how can they express their opinion using complex grammar? What parts of the exam could they use certain grammatical structures?
Mhm.
Another one is vocabulary. Now, this is a big one, because in the band descriptors, vocabulary is something that they're assessed on, and repetition is something that is mentioned in the band descriptors. So you want to teach them vocabulary, once again, in a natural way, where they're not memorizing a list of words, but they're actually learning topic-based vocabulary that they can apply to their life, that they can apply to essays that they can remember. Another one is generating ideas. So students will come to you and say, what if I don't know anything about the topic? This
Right.
is a question you will get all the time. So your first answer to the student should be, well, what is the question? Let's look at the question again. Because I've had a student come to me and say, here's my cue card. I got this cue card. I didn't know anything about it. The cue card said, describe a person who loves plants. My student saw the word plants, freaked out, and thought, oh my goodness, I don't know anything about plants. And that affected their performance in the exam. But the question was, describe a person. So actually, that answer is about personality adjectives and how can we describe someone. And a few sentences about plants would have been enough. They didn't need to know anything technical or great
They just
about
need to keep
plants.
it simple, right?
Yeah, just keep it
Basically.
simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. And this is the thing with with students' mindset is the over complication
Yes.
of everything. We need
Yes.
to break it down for them and make it as simple as possible. Another one is staying on topic. So this is different in speaking and in writing. In speaking, you can move around the topic.
Mhm.
As Daniel always says, stay in the same neighborhood. You can leave the street, but stay in the same neighborhood. Just don't leave the country when it comes to the topic. But writing, you have to be a little bit more strict with that. But even with writing, it is possible to be slightly flexible
Yes.
yeah, right. And then paraphrasing, this is a big one. They have to paraphrase everything. The question, their own words, so that they can avoid repetition. As I mentioned, vocabulary is in the band descriptors. You don't want to repeat words in IELTS. And then lastly, structure and flow when it comes to writing, but also in speaking. How can we set them up to structure their talk for part 2? Yeah, so this is what we need to work on as teachers. We need to help our students with these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, we've taken all of our knowledge and experience. We've tried to simplify this into just, some simple steps that we can follow. And these are things that we can help you with, with coaching materials and strategies so that students are prepared. They can write to the correct standard. They can speak to the correct standard. They can achieve their goals. This is what it's all about. And honestly, keeping it simple is really key information, which is what we try to do, because to get a band 7, you don't have to go, way beyond what you're capable of in terms of a student. I've worked with students who've gone from a 5.5 to a 7 fairly quickly just by keeping it simple and just trying to say less, which seems strange, but sometimes less is more, and just being simple and clear is really important and crucial for the test. So yeah, great advice, Claudia. Okay, where can we find some additional material? So again, another very common question that teachers come to us with is, where do I find good materials? Well, it's taken us a lot of time and effort, but we have put together some curriculums and some courses that we can share with you in terms of the materials, the lesson plans, etc. So we will share those with you first of all on the program. But in addition to that, there are some official places you can go, as well as some third-party places. So we always recommend, if you're starting out or if you just want to know a little bit more, go to the official places. So that's IELTS.org, CambridgeEnglish.org, takeielts.britishcouncil.org, and IELTS IDP. These are the 4 kind of official ways that people get their information on IELTS, and they base a lot of their teaching off these requirements because they are the straight from the horse's mouth. So this is a good place to start if you're not sure about certain things. Then we also have some third-party websites. Now, these might not necessarily be exactly 100% connected to IELTS teaching, but they can provide the topics, the vocabulary, the ranges of skills that we need. So we have mindup.com, visualcapitalist.com, eslbrains.com, and then on YouTube we have the IELTS listening test, and then roadtoielts.com. And then finally, there's some textbooks you could use just to help you with your own self-study, your own knowledge, your own personal development. So we have Vocabulary for IELTS by Pauline Cullen, Grammar for IELTS by Diana Hopkins with Pauline Cullen, and the official Cambridge Guide to IELTS. So these are 3 really good textbooks to help you get started and build your knowledge and experience as well. And then that's in addition to the materials that we can provide you to help you with as well. In terms of some of these websites, for example, eslbrains.com, this might not have things just about IELTS, but it will have topics that come up in IELTS Task 1. It'll have certain discussions that come up in IELTS Task 2 and IELTS Task 3, so Part 3 in the writing. So these can be really helpful for you as well. So these are some good places to start. You might want to pause the video and maybe take some notes, or maybe screenshot it if you wish. And then you have a bank of, a dozen or so materials to get started with as well. So those are some materials to help you. All right. So we've been talking for about 25 minutes right now, so hopefully you've learned some new ideas from this webinar. So if you have learned some new ideas from the webinar and you agree that, learning from former examiners, Band 9 test takers, teacher trainers, and experienced IELTS teachers could be helpful for you, if you believe it's necessary to improve your skills, master IELTS teaching, improve your rates, and build a long-term business, we would love to help you take your online teaching and IELTS skills to the next level. So hopefully you're excited and motivated and feel like this is something you'd really like to do. We're here to help you to do that. So we want to share the Expert IELTS Success Teacher Program with you. So let's talk about how we can help you in achieving those goals, creating that business, finding students, teaching IELTS successfully. Let's talk about how we can do this. So we're going to do this in three main ways, Claudia. So how are we going to do this? Let's talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah, so first, we will help you to get started. So as we mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, where are you in your IELTS journey? And let's meet you where you're at. And then when we do that, you can start to build your confidence as an IELTS teacher. I know that it feels overwhelming. I kind of wish I had a program like this when I first started out, right in the beginning, because you feel like it's just all this information can be super overwhelming. And can I do it? Yes, you can. Absolutely. So we're there to build your confidence, to support you, help you find students, and then to build your own curriculum as well. Every teacher is different, and we all have different teaching styles, different ways that we help our students. And so we want that to be unique to you, your own uniqueness. Number two, we will provide regular weekly expert sessions focusing on the skills and techniques that examiners use to assess their candidates accurately. So this is us just simplifying the process for you, getting rid of the noise as an IELTS teacher as well, and helping you just streamline that process. And then thirdly, we will provide materials and lesson plans to help you get started. We will also provide one-on-one coaching if that is something that you're looking for.
Yes, exactly. This is great. And I think it's really important because there isn't really anything like this that exists. And we've decided to work on this because we talk to so many teachers who say like, oh, I need help. I wish I had some help. There's nothing here really for me. So this is why we've decided to put this together for you guys. And let's talk about more specifically what we can offer to help you. So we do have an online course which you can study at your own pace, which is updated regularly. And that's just going to continue indefinitely. We're going to keep adding stuff, as long as we can, basically. So we'll have the online course. We'll also have weekly expert IELTS sessions. This is going to focus on specific skills. So some of the stuff we've mentioned already that you'd really need to help you improve as an IELTS teacher, we'll give you those sessions. We'll give you those expert, webinars and such sessions from an examiner's perspective, so we can share the experiences we've had. We also have Q&A sessions as well. We get lots of questions from teachers, so we're going to start to address those, go into detail, really dig deeply into those questions, go through them step by step, address them for you, show you some ways that we can help you be successful as an IELTS teacher with that. Also tools, software, websites. We're really, into embracing this to help you save time, save money, save stress, planning and getting things ready. We can use a lot of these tools, and we'll help you with this, and we'll show you how to do this as well in a quick and easy way, so that you are more confident and you can focus more on the teaching, because that's what it's all about. Also have our online course as well here. So Claudia, what is our online course going to offer our community?
Yeah, so inside our online course, you will find materials, content, and videos on the most important aspects of IELTS teaching. So once again, just simplifying that process for you. We will also share video sessions on techniques and strategies that the examiners use so you can better prepare your students. And then every week, we will have a live session, a Q&A. These Q&As, we've done a few of them already, and they've just been amazing, just connecting with other IELTS teachers, supporting each other, and listening to everyone's questions, because a lot of the same questions come up.
Mhm.
And it's just great to connect with each other on that level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Q&As are really important, and I think you'll really enjoy them because we can start to work together in our community, support each other, help each other. You've got someone there with you, not just us, but also your peers as well who are in the same boat. So we can also learn from each other as well. And as you can see on the left, this is just an outline of some of the things you can expect. So we've spent a lot of time trying to put this together for you. So mastering the band descriptors, creating your own mindset and your goals, creating your curriculum. You have your own curriculum, and we're also going to provide one for you so you can access that as well. Assessing your learners, skills and strategies for speaking, writing, reading, listening, building your students' mindset. How do you do that? Supercharge your planning and preparation. So we've got ways to help you save time with planning and prep. Positioning yourself as an expert on social media. Wow, how do I do that? So again, ways that you can do that to set yourself out from the rest and to stand out from the crowd. Where to find high paying students and build trust. That's the most common question. Where do I find students? We'll help you with that. We'll show you some of the ways you can do that. Building your branding and messaging. How do people know who you are, what you do? Why are you that go-to person? Again, we'll talk to you about how to do that. Building your very own IELTS course. We've done this. It takes time and effort. We've made mistakes. We've learned through trial and error. We've simplified the process for you. So we'll show you how to do that as well. Then you'll have the live lesson recordings that we do weekly. They'll all be on there with the notes, so you can review those and check those anytime, along with the Q&A sessions and recordings as well. And if you do want to attend coaching with us, there is a link there where you can find our calendar and you can book one-to-one coaching whenever you need it. So that is our online course. Lots and lots of value in there for you. And then we have our one-to-one coaching program. How does this work, Claudia?
Yeah, so you'll be able to come to us for support. Maybe you need a specific support for you're working with a student and you just don't know how to deal with a problem, or how do you deal with a beginner student, or whatever it is, you can get like practical help from us while you're teaching your students, which once again, I wish I had that, Daniel.
Me too.
um, yeah, so we'll just take you through the steps that you need in order to prepare your students. So it's just that extra level of support.
Yes, getting unstuck basically,
Yeah.
where do I go? What do I do? I can spend hours trying to figure it out, or I can just book a quick meeting with Daniel and Claudia, and I can just get the answers I need so that I'm confident, I'm on track, I have a plan, and I can follow that. It's about having that support, right? And we can help you with that. If it comes to teaching, comes to your business, social media, branding, marketing, messaging, and you just need someone to get unstuck and to help you, then we're here for you if you need that. All right, and most of all, it's about our community. We want to build a community. There isn't really anything like this that exists at the moment. So we want to be, there to help you, support you, and guide you through that. We'll be posting regularly to our Facebook group, which will remain private. So it's not just going to be open to everyone and spammers and scammers and etc. Because we know that's not necessarily the best way. And we've already set up an exclusive WhatsApp group for all our members as well. So if you do join the community, we'll be able to invite you to that so we can build that community. We can learn from each other. This is a really nice way to stay on track as well. Stay motivated, get that accountability, get support from us, as well as your peers in the group as well. So this is something we really want to push and promote as well.